Welcome to Leaders of the West, a podcast for innovators and changemakers. I'm your host, Jessie Jarvis, the founder of the West, and I'm sitting down with agriculturalists, entrepreneurs, executives, and everyone in between with the goal of digging into the strategies, mindsets, and lessons that have been crucial to the success of ag and Western. Whether you're carrying on the next generation of your family's operation, starting something from scratch, or determined to climb up the leadership ladder, we're going to inspire you to continue to dream big, growing not just you, but the future of agriculture and Western as a whole. Let's go. Welcome to this week's episode of Leaders of the West. There's no way that I can ever pick a favorite episode, but today's episode is really special because we are getting to sit down with my personal mentor and one of my very best friends in life, Ashley Alderson. Ashley and I first became acquainted because I actually worked for her at the Boutique Hub, which is the company that she is the founder and CEO of. The Boutique Hub has been around for 10 years, and they really focus on small business and boutique retailer education. They have members in all 50 states across 8 countries. They have been recognized as one of the fastest growing businesses in the Midwest. They've been on the Inc. 500 list. She has built an incredible business. But aside from all of her business know-how, Ashley grew up on a ranch in Bowman, North Dakota, and she actually served as Miss Rodeo America in 2008. So she is very well-versed in the world of agriculture, Western industries, Western sports. She and I co-owned Western Runway together alongside Tiffany Cooper. So we have been business partners, friends. I've worked for her prior to creating Of the West. So this episode is really special to me. Ashley has taught me so much in life, and I'm incredibly grateful for her friendship and all that she has given me in life. And I am very excited that I get to give a little bit of that to you guys through this episode today. So let's get right to it. The one, the only, Ashley Alderson. Ashley, thank you for hanging out with us today. I feel like this is going to be maybe the easiest conversation I've ever had, just because we are basically sisters, best friends, whatever you would consider this to be, but you're also one of my mentors in life. And I'm forever grateful for you. We do have to promise the listeners we're not going to cry and we're not going to laugh uncontrollably.
Well, those two things happen often, frequently. So I'm just so excited to be here. And you look so good in those headphones, by the way.
Well, thank you. I feel like a real professional here. Okay, so for those of our listeners who maybe aren't familiar with you, can you tell us a little bit about who is Ashley Alderson and what is the Boutique Hub?
Absolutely. So I love to frame this question to your audience because I feel like sometimes my audience wouldn't understand. But I will tell you, I grew up in rural North Dakota, not exactly a fashion mecca. So I find that to be a little contradictory to what I do today in terms of working with boutiques. But the beautiful part about growing up in rural North Dakota, I grew up on a farm and a ranch there, small town, 1,600 people, not a lot of shopping opportunities, right? Nearest shopping mall was 300 miles away. But that gave me such a love and appreciation of just unique finds in retail, whether it's fashion or it's gifts or just like these cute little shops in towns all over the world and all over the country. And I tell you that because as I grew up, as I went to college and after college in my career, I just loved finding these places all over the country. But I always kind of felt like, what about the rest of us in small towns? Fashion to me felt like New York. It felt like LA. But these small shops that I was finding everywhere, that's what felt like the answer for everyone else in the country. Like people like me in the Midwest. Our answer to fashion was these cute little boutiques I would find everywhere. So I worked in economic development, small business development for a long time in North Dakota. And eventually, as our family's ranch was changing hands, my dad had passed away. My husband and I took an opportunity to move to Wisconsin, where he's from originally. And it was during that time where I kind of took this passion I had for these small independent retail shops that I, discovered, plus my passion for small business development. And I put it together into what is now known as the Boutique Hub. Originally, it was an online shopping mall of boutiques where, again, people like me from the middle of nowhere could find cool stores to shop online. But when we first built that website, as you remember, because you were part of the story, we didn't have enough shoppers to have enough boutiques on the site. And we didn't have enough boutiques to attract enough shoppers. We had this real chicken and an egg problem. And so moving past that, we decided, man, how can we just serve the people who are already in our space? So we were attracting all these great boutiques, just having conversations with them about what they need. And we decided, man, what they just really need is just business advice. They were former stay-at-home moms and teachers and nurses. And so we started to build this platform of the Boutique Hub and its membership today, which is teaching boutique owners and retailers and e-commerce stores how to really grow and leverage their business. So 10 years later, long story short, that's what the Boutique Hub is today. And I'm so fortunate to get to do is just serve small business owners. They really started kind of in Western and in small towns, but really now I serve retailers of all types all over the world.
Well, I feel like you maybe undershared yourself because you guys, the Boutique Hub and Ashley, both are a far bigger deal than she made them out to be. There are thousands upon thousands of members of retailers that make up the Boutique Hub community. Yeah. They host the world's largest gathering of boutique owners. It's called the Boutique Summit. It happens in June. It rotates every year. This year it'll be in Dallas, Texas. You guys are at every major market, Las Vegas, Dallas, Atlanta, New York. What other things maybe did you not share in your attempt to be humble?
It's like a thing about like being humble. Thank you for that, by the way. I'm so proud that we serve stores in all 50 states and in 8 countries around the world. We serve about 80,000 small businesses. And these are online businesses. These are brick and mortar businesses. These are businesses of all types. We were kind of the first to do it in this space. I think that's cool. That's unique.
No, you guys really have been. We're going to talk a little bit about that later on. I have a question specifically to being the first. But the other thing, too, that you didn't mention is you have also been named to the Inc. 500 list and one of the fastest growing companies in the Midwest. Like, while I understand the importance of being humble, but you guys have built an incredible business and you have led the team. It all goes back to the team. There's an incredible team that works at the Hub. And Eric, your husband, you guys work side by side, but you are a genius in your own right. And I want to take a minute to just kind of embarrass you, if you will, and give you accolades in front of yourself, because nothing is worse than when people are talking kindly about you.
It's so awkward. It's so awkward. Thanks for making me sweaty.
Why is it though? If somebody talked negatively about me in front of me, like I could chew them up and spit them out. But if somebody talks nice about me in front of me, that's harder to take. Why is that?
I don't know what that is. And I think it's like a cultural thing, honestly. When growing up, and I know you can agree with me on this, especially like just rural life, right? Like farm ranch life. My dad always talked about just the values of integrity and being hardworking and humility and all these things. And so those are all wonderful things that we carry with us throughout the rest of our life. But sometimes there's like a shadow side to that too, that we also have to address. And it creates some, sometimes other stories of just really not being able to own and have the confidence or understand where our worthiness comes from. Like there's other things that we have to address with some of those wonderful lessons we learn in farm and ranch way of life.
Oh, well, I love that you brought that up because first things first, I want to focus on the topic of mindset, specifically scarcity versus abundance. This is something that I really learned about from you years and years ago. And I've seen you walk the walk in terms of having a strong, positive mindset. And I've also been there when it hasn't necessarily been an easy feat. So can you break down what scarcity versus abundance mindset is and what that really means? Because it's more than just being positive all the time.
Yeah, I could talk about this all day, but I'll just tell you, this is where this very first started for me was actually Eric introduced me to it first. It was a movie, The Secret, or the book, The Secret, if you guys have ever heard of that. That was like my first introduction to it. And I feel like when we first started to really like read about it and learn about it, it wasn't as mainstream as it is today. So old school, we would say like the power of positive thinking. That's really not even it. It's just the fact of what you think about, you bring about. Thoughts become things. Whatever you focus on, you're going to find more of. And I found that in many times in my life, there was scarcity that I was focused on. I was worried about, how much something would cost versus how much return could I get on my investment. Or I was worried, I remember hearing my parents say this a lot growing up, we can't afford that, versus just flipping a few words in that sentence and asking, how could I afford that? It becomes a completely different outcome when you just kind of shift your frame of reference. And so for me, that's really like abundance thinking, is understanding that there's more than enough money in this world to go around. There's more than enough. Money is abundant. The only thing that's truly limited in the world around us is time. Time is limited. We cannot make more time. So it becomes a real like leverage point as a business owner to ask yourself, how can I take the money that I have to invest it to create more time? Which is by hiring people, finding additional resources, helping us get things done faster that can move the needle. So it's just really thinking about what's possible and opening up our palms. Like another analogy I think about often is like sand. If you had sand in the palm of your hand and you wanted to carry as much sand from point A to point B as you possibly could, how would you carry it? You carry it, show me with your hands. You'd carry it with your palms up, right? Like I'd carry as much sand as I could like this. But what's happening with scarcity mindset and feeling like, oh, there's not enough to go around. I better protect what I have. We start to close our hands and clench. And pretty soon all the sand runs through the palm of our hand and we've lost what we've somehow managed to gather. So that is scarcity versus abundance mindset as well. As abundance is that palm open and scarcity is clenching and losing what we've been able to gather.
Or even the mindset of I have to do versus I get to do. That's another big one too.
There's so many words that we use on a daily basis. I sometimes have done this study with myself and with people that I work with of just doing a word journal, like writing down some of the things that I find myself saying often. The best place to start is whatever comes after the words I am. Like if you think about how many times you say that throughout the day, I am always late, right? I am a procrastinator. I am overweight. Or things like it'll never work for me, or I've tried that. Whatever comes after I, that statement is your truth. Whether you like it or not, whatever you continually are speaking into existence is your truth. So you have to find ways to shift the words because again, those thoughts become things and those words become things. I heard this stat one time, Jesse, on the Ed Milet podcast. You've probably heard me say this, but this gentleman, I can't remember his name, he was talking about just the statistics behind not even positive thinking, but neutrality. And he was saying that negative thoughts are 7 times more powerful than positive ones, but spoken words are 10 times more powerful than thoughts. So when you pair those two things together and you pair a spoken negative word together, like multiply that against just being neutral, just not saying the negativity out loud or just keeping your thoughts neutral versus going to negative town. It's not about being positive all the time. It's just maintaining an even keel so you can get ahead.
Well, and two, I also think about if we actually spoke out, verbalized those thoughts that we had in our head to ourselves, can you imagine how negative that would likely be? And I mean, even the most positive people, we still just kind of naturally have some kind of negative self-talk.
Yeah, absolutely. All of us do. So it's just the power of recognizing it so you know how to redirect it. And I think once you've done that with yourself for a while, I don't know if you find this, but then when you're around people that you find have a lot of negative self-talk, it becomes like nails on a chalkboard. Like it becomes really uncomfortable to be around other people because you're like, oh, like, do you see what you're doing to yourself? And as a parent too, I find this with my kids. I'm always kind of harping on them like, hey, thoughts become things and your words become your reality. So what are you speaking to yourself right now? Or if they were going to do a sports event or like a rodeo run or whatever, like I make them close their eyes and visualize it. Like visualize the perfect run because your muscle memory is going to come in and pick up where you left off and know what's possible, right? Versus you thinking about tipping a pole or tipping a barrel all the time.
I'm so glad you brought that up because that was literally what was in my mind. I remember you telling me one time that instead of when you talked to Hadley, at this time it was just Hadley who was entered in rodeo. Now all of your children are, but instead of telling her like, don't knock down a barrel or don't knock down a pole or keep them all up, you just have her visualize the perfect run. Because if you're telling her, don't knock a barrel down or don't knock a pole down, what's the thing she's thinking about doing? Knocking a barrel down or knocking a pole down. But if you're just thinking about that perfect run, that is then what you're going to go out and likely accomplish.
Our subconscious doesn't recognize the negative. It only focuses on like the action. So if I say, hey, Hadley, don't tip a pole, what's she thinking about? Tipping a pole. Like her brain doesn't understand the word don't. So if I just say, hey, like focus on, really using your feet and keeping your hands forward. And I have her visualize a clean run, like that's all she's going to see versus the possible negative of tipping a pole.
Or even like if you're ever on the phone with somebody, maybe it's your spouse or your parents and they tell you to like be careful or be safe. Yeah. Sometimes that can actually do more damage than good because then you're thinking about, oh, well, why do I need to be careful? What's out there? And then you like get on this little hamster on a wheel because again, just like that word don't, your brain can't comprehend that.
Yeah, exactly. There's so much power in that, man, we can have harnessed in any area of our life, like every area of day-to-day life, we can use that.
Okay, so back to scarcity versus abundance.
Mhm.
Because I know we've talked a little bit about this now, but where are some things that you really see that in people's lives or maybe even in business? Or if somebody works for a business, just like in their general work environment?
Well, I will just speak to this like as a new entrepreneur. If someone's a new entrepreneur, I think we see that a lot. Like I put it in the context of, are you an entrepreneur or are you a CEO? Like that's an easy frame of reference if you're thinking about starting your next adventure, side hustle, big business, or you're thinking about scaling your business. That's another time it comes into play. So to me, the difference is if I'm an entrepreneur, a lot of times, like I'm just hustling to see what's going to work. I'm DIYing a lot of things. I'm trying to save my way forward, which I'm sure your parents said this. My parents said this, like, oh, save your way forward. Saving, you can't grow a business by cutting expenses and saving money. It doesn't work like that. The only way to grow a business is by investing in things that create more time and can create and generate more ROI. So again, entrepreneur would be the scarcity of, I'll just save my way forward. I'll DIY it. I'll just do that thing myself because it's faster if I just get it done. I don't want to have to hire another person. I'm worried about the payroll. And another thing an entrepreneur would do is they're just focused on how do I just get bigger than yesterday? And a lot of times entrepreneurs are focused like the business is built around me. I am central to the story of the business. If you shift your thinking to be like a CEO, CEOs are very central on investing money to create more time, which generates more ROI, more resources, more opportunity to scale, and therefore gives you your time back so you can have a life, right? Because you don't want to work 24/7. And CEOs are also really great at thinking about not just how do I get bigger than I was yesterday, but what's my long-term vision? What's my mission? What's the culture I'm building? Where am I going to be next quarter, next year? What's my 5-year vision for myself? Like it's much longer term thinking. And CEOs are much better at creating systems and processes that allow you to scale. So again, it doesn't matter if you actually own the business or if this is you in a career and you're just thinking about how do I scale where I'm at. It's just a different way of thinking versus hustling for your worth versus being very systematic about the growth of your career in the business you're working in. And sometimes it takes money to make money. You've got to be willing to let go of a little to invest so you can get a lot more back.
I often think about it takes money to make money. There is not anything out there, to my knowledge, that doesn't require your investment first in order for you to make money. Even if you're going to go win the lottery, you still have to buy the lottery ticket. Like if you're going to go run a lemonade stand, you have to buy the lemonade, you have to buy the cookies, then you're going to make your money. Like there's no instance that I know of where you're just given something first. You have to spend the money and make that investment in order to make something back from it.
Yeah, absolutely. And your time is worth money. A lot of people don't calculate what's my time worth. So even if you're like, it's minimal, like dollar investment. Well, if you're a CEO, you're focused on $100 an hour jobs versus the $10 an hour jobs. So how many of your CEO hours did you put into this project and what did you get back? Your time's always got to be worth something. So when you're leveraging, like, where do I invest in someone else to help me with this project? Your job is like to protect the $100 an hour income generating activities. Those are yours. And then anything else you can outsource for $10 an hour. And again, depending on where you live, this is just simple math. I'm not saying that's what your wage is, but I can clean toilets with the best of them. But is that the best use of my time? Probably not. That's a $10 an hour job that I need to leverage and outsource. And if you're new to business and let's just say you're a parent, you've got small children, it's a babysitter or it's someone to do just like tasks that you can take off of your plate. So again, you can leverage income generating activity.
Oh, there's so much power in that. Okay, so one other thing that you and the Boutique Hub have really founded yourselves on is this mentality of community over competition. I think more people need to adopt this way of thinking. Can you break down what community over competition means and maybe some real world examples of where you've seen people and businesses thrive in adopting it?
Yeah, I'm so proud of this. This is such a big thing for any industry, any business. I mean, heck, all kinds of real world examples. Where it came from for me was back in my economic development days. I worked for a county in 3 cities doing economic development, loved it during the heart of the oil boom in North Dakota. And my small town at that time, there was 2 stores right across the street from one another, a Western store and an embroidery shop, kind of like department store. And the Western store was going out of business. And the department store owners came into my office and they were like, hey, Ashley, you've got to help us. We've got to find someone else who's going to go into the store space across the street. We have to find someone else to take over that business and buy that business. And I was like, what? Like, why would you want that? Like, now you can take over that market share. You can expand your product line. There's more customers to go around for you. It just didn't make sense to me. And they were like, hey, no, you don't understand. Wherever two or more stores come together, wherever two or more like businesses come together, we become a destination. I was like, oh, light bulb moment, right? People don't just want one option. They want many options. So why wouldn't we pool our resources and leverage one another's community to make everyone stronger? And ultimately, like, that's what a chamber of commerce was first founded on. And a lot of the, economic development associations that I was working with at the time, that's their purpose. So for me, when I started the boutique hub, I thought, well, why can't we do the same thing in the boutique industry? And at that time, it was very siloed. Nobody spoke. You ordered your zip code protected lines and you didn't want Susan down the street to know what you were ordering because she might try to steal this brand from you and carry the same thing. And so it took a lot of just breaking down old walls and barriers to just talk about what does community over competition mean. And again, it goes back to abundance versus scarcity. If you walk down the wine aisle or the bread aisle at Walmart or any store, you're like, how is there so many different brands of wine? And yet they all survive. Or how is there so many different types of white bread? I mean, that white bread's pretty boring, but there's a lot. And you like go and you pick out the butter bread, right? Or the Hawaiian rolls, because that's what your family really likes. And same's true for any business. Like, there's more than enough to go around. You just have to serve your customer and build a community better than anybody else. But you can leverage knowledge to help you and others, really grow your opportunity and therefore grow your own business at the same time.
Oh, I love this. And I think this is especially important in agriculture because unfortunately, I kind of see that competition mindset, right?
Yeah.
One cowboy hat company cannot outfit all of the heads that want to wear a cowboy hat, right? We need to have every brand possible because there's room for all of us. Same with, pants and boots. And those are very concrete examples, but also on the same token of like, if you're direct to consumer beef sales, like you and your operation cannot feed every hungry person out there. We need everybody. We need to continue to work together and strengthen our industries as a whole so that our bigger purpose is we want people supporting small businesses. We want people buying from boutiques. We want people eating beef or, eating animal protein or loving agriculture. Like, let's work for that common good, that mission. And we're going to be able to sell ourselves in the process.
Can I say something kind of controversial? Yeah. So this makes me think of Beyonce.
Yes, I love it. Keep going.
I'm going to go down the Beyonce rabbit hole. Okay, so I grew up in ag. I understand. I grew up in the rodeo arena. And there was a time in my life where we were like, the kid would come to school on dress-up day wearing the ugliest cowboy hat possible. And you're like, what even is that? Like, that is a Toby Keith crunched up wannabe cowboy hat. And you laugh about it. And you just grew up with this mentality of like, well, this is us and this is our culture and this is everyone else outside of our culture. And they just want to be like us. But now fast forward, people are doing that to Beyonce. But I think about it like, man, what if Beyonce has an opportunity to reach people who would have never been exposed to agriculture before? What if she reaches somebody who now thinks, man, buying a cowboy hat is actually really cool? So I just would love to see more people be supportive of whether it's Beyonce or Yellowstone or these kind of like fringe cultural things, because rather than looking at them as outsiders, let's look at them as a growth strategy of how can we make eating beef cool, understanding egg cool, knowing where your food comes from, wearing a cowboy hat, supporting a small business in our way of life, in our industry. Like, we have to reach out and work together. Otherwise, we're going to sit around and just complain about our industry shrinking and wondering what we're going to do about it, but not be welcoming to outsiders at the same time.
Oh, amen. Our industry, the agriculture industry, has been shrinking since the 1980s. The number of people involved in agriculture has been on a downward trajectory. If we are going to continue to feed a growing population, which is expected to hit 10 billion people by 2050, which is in 25 and a half years, we're going to have to add people to that graph and get that thing going upward. How are we going to do that? With outside people who are not currently in our industry. The other thing that I want to point out there, you got me on this soapbox and man, good or bad, right? But the other thing too is we all think we know a lot about our industry, especially those of us who have grown up in the industry, and understandably so, right? We've been here for 20, 30, 40 years. We think we know everything. We know what there is to know about our specific operation. We don't necessarily even know all there is to know within our sector of the industry, let alone the other sectors of the industry that are a critical piece of that supply chain, right? That's specifically regarding the beef industry, but I think even on a barrel racer, right? You know a lot about running barrels on your horse. Do you necessarily know a lot about other horses? Do you know what it's like in the cutting pen or in the reining pen or, wherever it is? Because those are all Western sports too. The reality is that we don't. We don't know everything. Our moms were right. Nobody knows everything.
Yeah.
But how many questions do we, who have been involved in agriculture or Western sports or the equine industry, have about our own industries? A lot of them. So who are we to think that people who are born outside of our industry who don't know anything should know it when we don't even know what there is to know?
I couldn't agree more. And you know what was really eye-opening? For me, I feel like I needed to get kind of slapped in the face with this, to be honest, because it's easy just to, kind of stay comfortable in what you know, like you're demonstrating. When I moved from, left the ranch, left North Dakota, came to Wisconsin, granted, still an egg-related state, but started going to rodeos in Wisconsin with my family and going to jackpot barrel racings and everything else. I'll never forget the first pro rodeo I went to out here. Actually, it was in Illinois. And I sat in the crowd and I was listening to the comments of the people around me that I now realized they had never been to a rodeo in their whole life. And they were like, it was not a positive experience for them. Like they had a lot of things to say. And I was like, oh, wow, like this is a mindset shift. In North Dakota, everyone's familiar with agriculture. Everyone's familiar with rodeo in my, way of growing up. Out here, it's completely foreign. So pretty quickly, I had to figure out like, how do I just bridge the gap? How do I have a conversation with these people? How do I, just have an introductory question or statement or, hey, do you want to pet my horse? Hey, do you want to come back here to the horse trailer and see how we take care of our animals? Like just making that introduction and making people feel welcome in our space, because outside of what we're comfortable with, there's a lot of people who, they just need one person to open the door to the conversation that can lead to so many other opportunities for growth.
Well, and they're the best person because they're already there. It's not like you're trying to convince a vegan to eat beef, right? That person is already at the rodeo. They're already interested in what you're doing. They just have questions. That is the easiest person to sway if that's what your goal is, because they're already they've bought the ticket, their butt's in the seat. Help provide them with that knowledge that they're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, rodeo is one example. I loved even your beef analogy. Like if I'm a beef producer, I can't feed the whole world myself. So how can I team up with all these other people who may be slightly adjacent to me so that I can just get people eating animal protein? Great example.
Well, and I just think there's so much power in that. And especially in ag, I see so many people trying to, eat our industry from the inside out, right? We're tearing each other down and, oh, this ranch does this or this method's not good. Honestly, do your thing. Food choice is a very powerful thing.
Yeah.
Keep on keeping on.
Yeah. I grew up with my dad making fun of Hereford cattle. So Hereford people, don't be offended. But we raise Black Angus. But is that necessary? No. We got to move on. We got to work together.
I know. I married Justin and I wasn't going to put a Hereford bull on my cows. And here I am, living proof. You can have a happy marriage.
There you go. I like it.
Okay. Let's talk about copycats, because I know that it's a topic that we all deal with at some time or another. I have witnessed a lot of them alongside you in the hub, because that is a real problem, right? Whether you're a business owner, an artist, a maker, whatever it may be. And I know that you've experienced your fair share of those. People who have maybe been in the hub and then tried to launch something identical to the hub after they were members. What advice would you give people who are dealing with idea stealers?
Man, well, a couple things come to mind. The first is the most important. I'm a big Will Ferrell fan, right? So if you've watched the movie Talladega Nights, I just believe in everything Ricky Bobby says. If you ain't first, you're last. So, just chalk it up to if you ain't first, you're last. You got to have a little confidence in the fact that you saw that opportunity and you ran with it. And it's not making it okay that someone's trying to steal your idea. But put your shoulders back and keep your head held high and keep your blinders on running forward, because they can chase your tail all day, but you're the innovative one. So there's just a certain level of confidence I think you just have to maintain. And you know what? I'm on the right track and I'm going to keep pushing even though this person's on my heels. Sometimes it makes you just run a little faster. Sometimes that person trying to copy you breeds a little bit more innovation in what you're already working on. It keeps you from getting too comfortable. So there is good in it, but it's incredibly painful. It sucks. It makes you mad. And I've been there, done that a number of different times. So the thing that I've also learned is nobody can copy you and the way that you make other people feel. So no matter what your business is, I think really creating a brand identity that builds community and builds an emotional reaction in other people, that can't be replicated. People can steal ideas, people can steal products, they can steal a lot of those things, but they can't steal the way you make other people feel. So I think whatever your marketing plan is, you've got to double down into that emotional reaction and the bigger picture of the good that you're trying to do in the world too. When your business and your career are focused on, service more than selling and like a true outcome that serves other people, solves someone's problem, it's hard to really replicate that, in my opinion.
Ooh, I love that. No, there's so much truth though, and just to continue to pour into your community, because those are things that they can't steal. They can't steal your relationships or those special sauce, if you will. Like only you have that. And two, if somebody has to continually steal ideas to make themselves relevant, they're trying to take the easy way out, and that's not going to last long because we know that businesses are difficult to build. It is the long game. Nobody's going to get very far if they're continually trying to make those short-term wins. That's not going to build a long-lasting business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Because you are the retail queen, we can't let you go without spilling some tea. I know our listeners, a lot of our listeners, I should say, own retail businesses, whether that's a boutique, like I said, direct-to-consumer beef, they're a maker, some kind of business. What are 3 things all retailers need in order to thrive?
Ooh, okay. First is you have to have a very intimate understanding of your ideal customer. And when you target everyone, you reach no one. So when I say specific, like you aren't marketing to women ages 18 to 80. You're marketing to a very specific demographic. And if I'm a ladies boutique, let's just say, right? So who is your ideal customer? What's the problem you solve for your ideal customer? And I really love Donald Miller. I love his book, Story Brand. And so when I think about, what's the story that I'm telling through my branding to my ideal customer? How does that allow my customer to be the hero of the story who defeats the villain in their story, which makes me the wise guide in my story? So if you want more, like literally read Donald Miller's book. It's incredible. So when you know the customer, you can help defeat their villain, whatever that might be. That's important. That's number 1 is know your customer. Number 2 is I'm going to say is build community. So it's not just about you knowing your customer and solving their problems, and you talking to your customer, maybe your customer talking back to you. How do you get your customers to talk to one another? How do you create a sense of identity around your brand that creates conversation amongst all of your customers? And they feel like they're a part of something bigger than themselves. It's not just a consumable product that they're buying from you one time, but they're buying from you because they want to be a part of the movement that you're creating within your community that you've built in your brand. So customer, community. And then the third thing when it comes to retail, I would say is conversion. So it's lovely to know all the art sides of your business. Like you love the people and you love the product and you love the marketing, but you have to love the analytical side of your business too. So what are the numbers that really fuel conversion in your business? If you broke it down like this, what is your sales goal in this particular period of time? And you took that sales goal divided by what's your average order value currently. That's going to give you how many transactions you need to meet your sales goal. Simple math. Then you take that transaction divided by what's my average conversion rate in store, online, however I'm currently selling. That's going to give me how much traffic I need in order to hit that goal. So I think everything has a formula if you follow it. If you look at how much traffic I need in a particular period of time to hit my sales goal, that makes marketing really easy. Because I know if I send this many emails, I get this much traffic. And if I run these ads, I get this much traffic. And if I go to an event, I can reach this many people and get this much traffic. Now everything I'm doing has purpose and I'm acting as a CEO, not just an entrepreneur wondering what I'm going to post on Instagram on a Tuesday morning that no one's going to care about anyway if it doesn't have purpose behind it. So your customer, your community, your conversion.
You can't just throw things on the wall and hope something that is going to stick. Like there has to be some strategy behind it. And numbers, while they're scary to some people, numbers are really empowering because then you're ensured that you're making good decisions because you're basing them off statistics and data.
Yeah. This theme of know your numbers. I'm just going to tell you, I hated math growing up. I hated math in school. Mr. Nagel, my math teacher, he hated me. I have a feeling it was probably mutual. It was terrible. It was really bad. I did not start to like math until I started looking at it as dollars. I like dollars. I don't like math. So how do I make the dollars go into formulas that actually speak to me? Because then it allows me to do marketing and to do all these fun things. I'm empowered by the numbers versus being intimidated by the numbers.
Okay, last question before we hit the rapid fire round. What's the biggest mistake that you see retailers make, and how can it be avoided?
Biggest mistake I see retailers making is looking across the fence at what someone else is doing and thinking that's going to be the key to their success. The grass is not always greener on the other side. So this idea of like, well, so-and-so boutique was selling this product, so that must work for me. Or, such and such retailer was selling in this way, so that's probably going to work for me. Such and such went to the NFR to sell, so I should also go there. I think that every business is so different. There's so many different ways to make hay while the sun shines. You just have to figure out, test what actually is going to work for you and iterate until you find what is your brand and your identity and what's going to work for your business.
Yeah, you're making your own recipe, not the recipe that somebody else is.
Yeah.
Okay, rapid fire time. What's the best piece of business or personal advice that you've ever been given?
Oh, what got you here won't always get you there. Growing a business is one thing, but then figuring out how to scale the business is another. And it comes sometimes with some uncomfortable conversations and changes and new ways of operating. So don't get too comfortable. What got you here won't always get you there. You've got to be willing to shift and shake things up as you go.
If you could give people any words of wisdom and you knew that they would take them to heart, what would it be?
What you speak about and what you believe will become your reality, good or bad. We talked about, scarcity and abundance mindset. I just think that is the most important advice. No matter what your age, no matter what you do, what you think about, you'll bring about. What you speak about will become your reality. So guard your words and your thoughts with everything you've got.
If you could go to dinner with anybody, dead or alive, who would you pick?
Oh, God, that's a tough question. Okay, so my great-great-grandmother, I didn't really get to know my grandparents very well. I had one grandparent, one grandma that I knew. It was her family who homesteaded our place in North Dakota. And at that time, Sitting Bull and the Indians were coming through the place. There was just so much history there that I feel didn't get passed down because I was the youngest out of a big family. So I would go back and I would want to know our family's journey to get where they ended up.
That was not the answer I was expecting from you, but that is the coolest. I had no idea. How did I not know that about your family?
I don't know. What were you thinking I was going to say Reba?
I thought Kenny Rogers.
Did I ever tell you about the time that I stalked Kenny Rogers and tried to get a picture with him? I waited for it. This is so creepy, Jesse. We were in Las Vegas and he was doing a show and a bunch of people and I waited outside. We were like, this is Ashley's childhood imaginary friend. We're going to get a picture with Kenny Rogers. And so we waited for him to come out to his tour bus. And he looked so old and crippled that we felt so bad. We didn't even approach him for a picture. We were like, just let the man have peace. Oh. And we went on with our day. So no, not Kenny Rogers.
Not Kenny Rogers. Okay, well, good to know. Okay. What is one quote that you lead your life by?
I'll give you two. Can I give you two?
Yeah, we love to.
One's a snarky one. So the more positive one, and this has been my favorite quote since high school, and that is, opportunity is often missed because it's dressed in overalls and looks like work. So love that one. The snarky one, however, is good luck with your little project, which is someone once told me this when I was starting the business, and it always fueled me to prove them wrong. So here we go.
You have given me good luck with your little project a lot in the positive, in the sense of just keep going, because you are going to meet people who they're not into what you're doing. They don't see the vision. They don't buy into the vision. They don't see the importance. They're busy doing things the way they've always done them, and they're not going to change and they're not going to be progressive. And you just have to keep moving forward.
Yeah. If everyone understood your vision and saw the value in it immediately, they would have ultimately created the business before you. They would have created it on their own if they really saw it the same way that you did. So you just have to trust that it's not going to be for everyone, but it's going to be for the right people. And you just have to keep going.
Oh, love, 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 love. Okay. Let's talk about your favorite things. Do you have a favorite book or podcast or program, like a service, maybe something that's changed your life in some way and you think more people need to know about it?
So I love podcasts. And when I can, I listen to books on Audible. One book that I think that my kids will be required to read before they graduate, and I think everyone should read, is an oldie but a goodie, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Life-changing book.
That's a good one. I like that. Good answer. There's no wrong answers. I love the questions that I get to ask guests, but the rapid fire round is totally my favorite just because I feel like those nuggets of wisdom, those quotes, like the books, that's the stuff that my favorite.
Yeah.
Well, Ashley, do you have anything else? Where can people hang out with you? Where can they follow you online? If somebody is a retailer and they want to learn more about the hub, where can they go to get that?
Yeah. If retail or e-commerce are your jam, theboutiquehub.com or the Boutique Hub on any socials. If that's not your jam and you just want general like small business advice, marketing advice, or you just want to see me try to manage a bunch of kids and a bunch of horses on a daily basis, AJ Alderson on Instagram.
Oh, well, Ashley, thank you so much. You, as I mentioned in the beginning, you are my best friend, my mentor, my sister wife, all the things. I'm so thankful to have you. I hope everybody is able to find an Ashley in their life.
I feel like that about you.
Well,
my sister wife. I'm so proud of you. This is so fun to be in the seat and seeing you interview me. I love it. Thank you for having me on. And man, thank you for going for your dream. Like, it's incredible the change you're making and the inspiration that you're giving to so many other people. And I know this is just the beginning. Like, you barely even started yet. There's so much more good that's going to come. And I know it's going to shape the entire industry. So keep going.
What was that thing we talked about? How it's really hard when people say positive things in front of you. But if you would have told me some negative thing, I could have came back at you with an answer.
Right?
No, I don't know what to say. No, thank you guys so much. And for those of you who are listeners, you guys, I highly encourage you to go follow Ashley. If you're a retailer, go follow the Boutique Hub. Go join the Boutique Hub. It will change your life. They do so much good in the world. And as always, we will see you guys back here next week.
If you loved this episode, do us a favor and share it with someone else who might find just as much value in it as you did. We're on a mission to continue to grow and strengthen the future of agriculture and Western industries, and you spreading the word helps us make more of a positive impact. It also makes a big difference when you take a minute to go rate and review the show. We can't thank you enough for listening, for sharing, and for loving Ag and Western as much as we do. We'll see you back here for our next episode.